Caw. Two men. One named Rich. That's me.
This is Jermaine. Just got off the toilet.
He's a foul man. This is the X's and O's of life.
Huh?
I always feel bad for guests to come on and have to experience that. It's just like, yeah, he didn't know what he signed up for. I apologize. So, this is Rich, and I have a guest. His name is. Do you want to go by Dave, or what do you dig here?
Either one, man. I'll answer to it. Just don't call me late for dinner, so I'm good.
My man. All right. So I have Dave here with me, and he is another guest on the interview section portion of the show that I've yet to make a separate part of because I'm bad at what I do. That's fine. So I kind of mentioned this kind of off air a little bit, but you know, there are interviews that I do that are like, yeah, I mean, I'm into this. That's cool. And there's some that are like, yeah, okay. And then there are ones that are like, listen, boys, this is something I'm super intrigued with. So, like, shut up and listen because it's interesting. So, you want to tell the folks out there, you know, who you are, what you do, and we'll kind of jump into it.
Sure. So, like you said, my name is David McClam. I am a true crime podcaster. I run a show called True Crime Authors and Extraordinary People. We'll get more into that. It's a three-faceted show, as you can tell, broke down by weeks. I'm also in production now of another show called Extinguished with my partner, LaDonna Humphrey. So, yeah, I've been doing this for about 5 years, and I rather enjoy it.
Why are you doing it?
So if you ever listen to my show, I think the first episode I said I do true crime because there are cases that nobody knows about, and there are cases that we should never forget. So I do that so that people know about the true crime. I mean, I go back as far as 1800 some crimes that I've done.
Jesus. Okay.
Nobody knows those, right? And so there's things that we should know, things that we shouldn't forget because of the way the world runs. Kind of shows us where we are in life, what we can and what we can't do these days and times, unfortunately. So yeah.
How dark do you go?
I'm a clean show, but I go as dark as necessary. So I just don't use a lot of profanity. But I'm gonna tell you the case the way that it is, and I do give a disclaimer in front of the show if there is something that bad, just in case somebody does have triggers.
Okay, so is your type of show, because some of the ones I listen to, they actually have like physical clips of kind of interviews, and you know, there are some things out there that are unnerving. Let's call it that. Do you kind of go that way, or are you just kind of doing commentary, or what? How does that kind of go?
So if there's a clip available, I will use that, especially if it points out a point. Like if you listen to my first episode of the second season, which was dealing with the prank that was pulled on the Duchess over in England, I did use a clip of that because you could hear the prank in the accents. Most of the time, like I tell my audience, I do research into it. I will use Wikipedia because of the fact that we live in a time where people says, if I don't read it, it didn't happen. But I've done extensive research, and then I'll break the case down for you. Now, my other show, Extinguished, is exactly what you just said. So we actually do a long-form case, one case 4 weeks, and we actually talk to the people that's involved in their life or the family members. So I kind of give you a sneak peek into that. I don't know if you heard of the Superbike murders that happened about 13 years ago, where a guy walked into a Superbikes motor store and shot up everybody.
Yeah.
So that is the first case of Extinguished, where we actually did talk to Scott Ponder's wife, and we talked to Charlie, who is the girl that ends up getting found in the cargo container. We talked to Charlie's sister. So you will hear actually from the real families there.
Wow, dude. How do you parlay that, man? Like, is it just kind of you're reaching out to these folks and saying, hey, I want to tell your story from a different kind of angle and avenue, or like how do you pull that off?
Well, on that show, it kind of helps that my partner is LaDonna Humphrey, and she's one of the number one best-selling true crime authors out there.
Well, that probably helps a little bit.
That helps a ton. Yeah, she's over a case called the Melissa Witt case. I don't know if you heard about that. Girl disappears years ago, 19 years old, found in the woods, unsolved murder. It's kind of linked back to what they call the death fetish community, which a lot of people don't know about, but there is a community like that where people actually get off on beating up or seeing women killed in a certain way. So she's been over that case for 8 years. So she pulled me into Extinguishers with her and said, hey, let's do this podcast. And turns out that A&E, she had sought a pilot for A&E. So there's a show called Murder in the 21st that's going to air in September. In this case, you will see LaDonna actually interview Melissa, who's Richard's wife, for our podcast in November. So yeah, it's kind of intriguing.
Golly, man. I mean, hey, look, hats off to both of you. That's insanely awesome. So to give you a little look into my kind of interests. So and once again, I said it off camera. It's kind of a morbid fascination, right? You hear some of these stories, you don't hear some of these stories, but it seems like some of the stories that you hear, you don't really hear the parts that you can hear on a podcast. You know what I mean? Like they'll kind of give you the little clippets and whatever on the news stuff and whatever. But there's one I listen to all the time. It's called Obscura, and and he has another one that's darker. It's called Black Label, and that was kind of my introduction into it. And I made a really bad mistake one day and subbed to the Patreon feed, which was that part is fine. But then I binged it for 2 days. Holy shit. Don't do that because you will feel terrible. Like it actually affected, because he is very much a clip show person. And, just you're hearing like death rattles on. And I'm like, golly, man. Like, what do we? But it's unfortunately, as people, we really, really like car crashes. So, you don't see a car crash and wonder, hey, is everything okay? You just want to gawk. And you eventually think, hey, is everybody okay? But you're seeing, you're over there looking not to see if people are okay. You're looking for an arm somewhere that's not supposed to be.
Right.
And it doesn't make us good or bad. It just makes us curious. And I think that's kind of where that comes into play too, is naturally we are curious people. And as quote unquote normal, well-adjusted people, we're like, and by the way, you can say whatever you want to on this one. So hopefully none of your, I'm assuming you're going to pass this on to your people. So are any of your people going to be irritated with any language or anything?
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
Okay. So you sit there and you're like, I'm well adjusted. I'm quote unquote normal. What's up with these fucked up people? Like, why are they able to think that way? Or why are they able to do that and feel X, Y, or Z?
That's one thing we dive into, because that's another part of it that I do study. Donna helps with that. What is in the mind of these people? I'll give you one that I'm going through personally right now.
Okay.
You'll hear this episode in about a week, but about 5 years ago, there was a shooting here at my daughter's high school.
Oh, Jesus, man.
Right. And we hear about all these shootings, but when you are actually a parent that gets that call,
right,
a whole different thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, what's going on? Because when I start digging into the shooting, what you find out is this kid walked in, he stayed all night. And like I told you, I live in Palmdale. So the night that he stayed all night in the football field, it was cold here. 32 degrees is pretty much freezing.
Yeah, out in Cali, yeah. Right. I'm in Pittsburgh, so I'm like 32 degrees. Man up.
But I'm in the desert, right? So
right.
He slept there all night, purposely waited, walked into school at 7:00 in the morning, pulls out a gun and shoots people. What they don't want to tell you, and see, this is why people don't do true crime the way I do, because they're afraid of actually being canceled or sued or tackling school boards. But I'm not, because the school district my son goes to, my daughter was in, is horrible.
Yeah.
Come to find out, no, they didn't talk to the people of the kids that he kicked out of the school. They didn't talk to the kids that he met in the bathroom and said, "Get out, you don't want to be here." And they didn't point out that he only went after 2 people. Found out this kid was moved to a whole nother school because he was being profusely bullied by the kid that he went after. Got to him so bad that even though he's moved away, now Quartz Hill is probably about another 30 minutes from where Highland is, he has to come back and get revenge. Shoots these two, misses the sister, shoots the kid in the arm, immediately runs out of the school, throws the gun, calls a friend who is a cop to come get him. And so when people dings me, I said, so my son's going through the same thing. He has a kid that's bullying him all the time. I got a meeting with the school tomorrow because I pulled my son out of that school because he's getting hit all the time. And when you have the administrator tell you, I know this kid and he's not a bully, there's a problem. And so when I start digging into this kid, I'm like, so he isn't a school shooter in the sense that we know them. He went back for revenge because you can't keep fucking with people like that.
Right.
Expect them to go away. You don't know where their psyche is. And
right.
With the school district treating me, I mean, the principal's hung up on me. He's yelled and screamed at me. He's done a lot of things that would piss me off.
I wish a motherfucker would.
Right. And I'm like, you don't know me. And I've said this right there in the school. They're like, you threatening us? I said, take it the way you want to. I said, but you don't know me. I could have came in here with a gun and lit up the whole place. You put my son, your son, everybody else is in here in danger. But if a person touched my son, we gonna have a problem. So we start digging into the psyches of some of these people. Not that what they did is right. You start to figure out what's going on. And a lot of our serial killers or school shooters, if you read, even the federal government says more than 85% of school shooters or mass murderers were bullied by a friend, a colleague, or a teacher. So it's horrible.
Yeah, you don't just come out the womb with an AK like, well, fuck it, we're gonna die today. It's like that doesn't happen. And you know what's interesting about the whole psyche thing too, and it's kind of deviating from this, but I think it was like 2 or 3 interviews ago. I don't know. It was I think the name of it was Andrea is bringing sexy back. I named my thing silly, so it is what it is. She's a sex therapist. And she deals with and it's not like the conventional, like, hey, me and my wife aren't hooking up. It's like, no, hey, I like kids. Oh no. And I talked to her and I was like, dude, I don't know how you do that. Like, that's just got to be such a crazy thing. She did something I did not expect anyone to actually be able to do. She humanized a molester. She humanized them because she explained it in such a way where, and I don't want to like misquote myself because I'm an idiot. So I don't want to like, you want to listen, if you want to get the actual like mind-blowing thing, listen to the episode, but shameless plug, it's fine, it's my show, I do what I want. She broke the people down and she explained vast majority of these people hate themselves. They hate themselves. It's not like they are out there making some of them are making a conscious decision, but a lot of them are like, I can't help myself. I can't control this. I don't want to see a 10-year-old and I'm not going to get like too graphic because that's gross, but it was crazy to hear someone be able to humanize something that's such a despicable act. And it's interesting because that does kind of go in with the true crime thing, because molestation is not really, people don't really like that. I don't know, call me crazy, but it's interesting that you're able to, you dive in and you pick apart, okay, this is why this is happening. And you're right. Majority of people like that are bullied. You don't just come out well-adjusted anymore. Like some trauma has to happen, whether it be bullying, whether it be full circle here, molestation or something like that, that's going to make you snap. I mean, there are chemical imbalances, obviously, but generally speaking, an external force is gonna push you there. So,
and don't get me wrong, there's people out here that just does killing for the sake of that,
right?
But I hope you tune in. I'll let you know when it comes out. But
I'm 1,000,000,000% sub into your stuff, and I'm gonna binge it. And hopefully, I don't want to kill myself later because I don't want to make that mistake again.
You'll kind of find out that I do it in a way where if you did do that, you still be okay.
Nice.
But when it comes to the super bike murders, that's the reason why Cole Hep said he did it. because he felt disrespected that day when he went into the shop. So if you just listen to those words, right, I'm gonna come back and shoot up the whole shop because you said whatever to me that I don't even know if you know what you said that
Right.
just set me off.
Right.
So yeah,
Which
it's interesting sometimes.
what's the worst case you've covered that really like I mean, well, is there any case that kind of rattled you to your core that you either had a hard time kind of finishing or just really like messed you up a little bit or
Not finishing, but because I prepare myself for that, but there's things that linger.
okay.
So for me, one of the ones that brought me to the dance was the Jonestown massacre. That one's and I
Okay.
was in that case. That one's always lingered with me. But I think it wasn't a case, it was actually a person who hasn't appeared yet. I've just shot his episode, he's gonna come grab tissues. But I just interviewed a guy named Colin Hughes. Colin wanted to come on the show because he is now um a suicide prevention advocate. Turns out his 15-year-old granddaughter committed suicide just last year in 2022. Out of all the cases I've done, that's one of the ones that rattled me because of the fact that we talk about teen suicide, we talk about what the effects of it is, but when you actually see it on somebody,
Right.
and that's one interview I'm definitely releasing on video because I want people to see this is what teen suicide looks like on a grandfather who still a year later is just so overwhelmed with it that if you watch the interview, we start out like I usually do. You know, I banter up my guests, you know, how you doing, anything else you know about you. And he's like the happiest dude you want to know. But the moment that I said, well, let's talk about what we're here for, just the grief poured and just streamed. I dealt with Dr. Victoria Courret. That was another one that rattled me. So there's a lot of my extraordinary people that I bring on that rattles me because, you know, she was in a domestic abusive relationship while she was pregnant, got kicked in the stomach, the whole nine. Daughter has suffered from all kinds of health issues because of that. There's a couple of cases I've coming up there that's going to be gruesome. I've kind of shied away from. One's called the Toy Box Murders. I don't know if you heard of that. But this guy, he was very sadistic. They called him the Toy Box Murders because he had dealt with a cargo container, fashioned it pretty much into a sex dungeon, and he would actually kidnap women. And when he brought them there, as cruel as this is, now imagine I'm going to come kidnap you and you know you're going to die. But I'm going to make you sit in a cargo container and I'm going to play a tape that runs about 35 to 45 minutes. And I'm telling you everything in which I'm going to do to you at what point.
Oh, Christ.
That's what he did. There was a couple of girls that actually did survive that. So people ask me, why would you want to do that case? Well, here's the deal. A case that we shouldn't forget because a lot of girls that he got a hold of ran away from home, right? They were prostitutes. They didn't feel like anybody cared about them. Our women, especially our young girls, is the most vulnerable right now because of that. So these predators hone in on these girls that they don't feel like anybody really cares about, and that's where they go. So yeah, that's why my show is Three Faceted. So let me kind of give you that real quick. Maybe this will intrigue you too. So true crime, of course, 1 week I do a true crime case. The next week I interview an author. That's how I met LaDonna. So
okay.
I interview all kinds of authors. Of course, a lot of true crime authors reaches out to me the most. But yeah, we talk about their books. We, get their books out there. And a lot of these books that's out there are great. And that's one of the reasons I started this show was because I read a lot and I'm like, all of these independent authors are good, but you guys never heard of them if you're not
right.
Scene. And then my third one is extraordinary people. I do that segment to humanize the true crime segment, right? To show people that, man, this stuff really happens in real life. I'm just not sitting here doing this. So here you go. And I did it as a pilot my first season, and audiences liked it. So now it's baked in.
Oh, I'm in this weird place where I'm excited and mortified, and I'm like, it's that weird. It's like that roller coaster feeling, right? Like you're going up, you know what you're gonna expect, but you're like, oh shit, it's gonna happen though. Oh no, and you're like, I'm gonna do it again though. It was fun. And it's interesting because it's not made for everybody. Like that's
Right.
that's the kind of the tough part a little bit about that niche kind of type of podcast, because you are very much appealing to a few different segments. I mean, depending on how you do it, it could be more of a broader outreach. But like I don't know if I don't know if you're a football fan or at all or anything.
Absolutely, yeah.
You said no?
No, I totally am.
Oh, totally. Okay. All right. So my wife is a nurse, sort of. She does more of the admin stuff, but she's like seen a ton of people die, which is crazy to me because I'm like, how are you still fucking normal? She's like, okay. I'm like, the fuck is wrong with you? But you cry at Disney. What is happening? I don't understand. Whatever. You need to interview her for your true crime thing. She's, a cough away from shooting somebody. Anyway, I showed her. I tried to show her the Nick Chubb injury where his knee literally went a completely wrong way, and she couldn't handle it. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, your job at some point was to see like she seeks people out when they want to die. Like she's an amazing individual. Like when she was actually working in the hospital and other places, she would seek them out when they were going to die because she would bathe them and do all this. I'm like, I understand what you're doing, but god damn, like you're broken, maybe. So it's interesting that, and I feel like true crime is like has a bigger audience than it used to. I think it used to be a little bit taboo. Now it's like, because I think more people are doing it. More people are doing it in different ways and are being respectful about it. It's not just here's the blood and guts, literally and figuratively of it. Here's the story behind it. Here's stuff that you kind of heard. It's kind of like, remember VH1's Behind the Music? It's kind of like that kind of deal. And I always appreciate people that can do that because you said something that was interesting, and I wanted to ask you about it. You said you prepare yourself for this. What does that look like? What does that mean?
I think about, well, first of all, as you can probably imagine, I have a list of cases.
Right.
I have enough cases that I listed I could do for the next 5 years. I look at the case I want to do that week, and I start the research on it, and I just mentally prepare myself for that, right? Because I know I have to come to the audience in a certain way.
Right.
If it make me emotional, I got to get that out the way and over with. So that it helps that I've read through the case and I know what's going on. Now, I don't script anything. So my podcast is 100% unscripted. Whatever you hear me say is coming off the dome at that time.
Nice.
But yes, I have to look if it's morbid, okay, I got to deal with the fact that they cut his head off or, they found his body in the pail so that when I'm presenting that, it doesn't seem like that I'm going to just totally crack. But mentally, dude, it's like then I have to take a break sometimes. Like after the Colin Hughes thing, I couldn't do anything for the rest of the day, true crime, because all I could see was his face. And I'm facing with the school district. I'm like, man, I talk to my son every night, dude. If you feel like that you just can't do this anymore, you need to let me know.
Right.
It's different when it's sitting in front of you. And then with LaDonna, we talk about the cases and we have to have it out so we already know. But like what you were saying about your nurse, I give my hats off to LaDonna because they actually infiltrated the death fetish scene for like 2 years. I couldn't do that because when she came to me, I'm like, all right, give me a link. Let me see what this stuff is all about. Dude, I was in there for like 5 minutes and I'm like, yeah, I can't do this. And I went to her and I said, all right, so looking at all this stuff that you've been infiltrating because they're trying to get stiffer obscenity laws passed so this stuff doesn't happen. We actually believe that there are actually women that are being murdered, that there's real life snuff films that you're watching on some of this stuff. And what kind of led her there was because when Melissa Witt was killed, she wore a Mickey Mouse watch that has disappeared and never been found to this day. And ironically, Mickey Mouse watches has appeared in some of these death fetish videos, which has kind of put her and the investigators on their trail. And she told me, she goes, man, I have a therapist. She has to go see a therapist now because that stuff is so draining to the brain, right? When you see some things, you just can't unsee it. So I think that's why my show took off the way that it is because, well, there's over 70 episodes now. So if you did a true crime, but you want to keep listening to the show, you just don't want to be that heavy, go listen to an author, right? Or pick one of the extraordinary people whose cases is not that heavy. Because all my extraordinary people is not that heavy. I mean, I've dealt with actors. I have a spy. He was a corporate spy that came on the show. Didn't know those existed. And in his case, I mean, his episode like a James Bond episode, the way he got in. But yeah, man, I'm with you. But
it's like a palate. It's like a palate cleanser a little bit, like so you can keep yourself fucking okay, so you're not jumping off a bridge.
My very first show I did. So I've done this for 5 years, 4.5 years. I did a show called A Day with Crime with My Daughter, And our palate cleanser was at the end of the show, we would always do shout outs for other podcasts that had
Oh,
nothing
nice.
related to true crime, as a way to kind of like have your brain disconnect now from the case that we just did. And hopefully you can go on about your day. But
Right.
that's why I try to present things in a way to not so morbid for a number of reasons. One, I don't want to mark my podcast explicit because I think some of the main people that needs to hear this day and time is the younger people. And once you mark that, anybody 18 and anybody 18 and below or 17 and below can't hear it.
Right.
The other one is for things what you just said. You know, I can give you and paint you the picture, but I don't have to give you all the blood and guts so that your day is ruined, because a lot of people consume podcasts on their way to work. So
yeah, it's not really a great way to start your day. Yeah.
right. And even though they shouldn't, but I'm like picturing in my mind, what if a psychologist is listening to this morning and he walked in? You know, his mind is not quite right when he gets there.
Fair enough.
But you're right. The genre of true crime has blown up. Matter of fact, it is one of the biggest genre of podcasts right now, which is why you have to, if you're going to start a true crime show, you have to have a niche that no one else is doing.
Yeah.
For your show to gain traction. If not, it just gets buried in everything else.
Yeah, and I like the whole unscripted element. That's kind of what me and my co-host kind of did with this thing. We have we have ideas what we want to talk about, and we don't talk about it throughout the week, and we just say, hey, let's talk about this. Okay, hit record, stupid. Okay, sorry. And then we talk. And because I like the organic stuff. So the fact that you don't have, I mean, you prepare for it, obviously. For something like that, you can't just say, here's all my opinions. Nobody wants to hear your opinions except if they're backed with other facts. So it's like,
Right.
cool, you know, water cooler talk. We don't want that. So, but I like the idea that you're like, no, hey, we just kind of go and shoot and talk. Well, probably not really the best word. You don't shoot. You know what I mean? Oof, that was a bad pun. I appreciate that. I appreciate the organic part of this, because I think there are too many super formatted, super laid out podcasts that are. It really feels like they're in segments, which in certain aspects and certain things, that's good. For something like this that is talking about something that's like visceral and can absolutely mess with your head and emotions, you don't want it to be robotic. So that's pretty great, man. That's a great way to do it. I appreciate that. I'm very much I kind of want to end the interviews just so I can go listen to your stuff at this point. It's weird.
I kind of think with Extinguished too. So we're gonna be doing a lot of heavier cases. So over there it is we're doing missing and murdered cases.
Yeah.
And I think the long form of that is good because it's the same case for weeks.
And that's super interesting. Like that's how long are your podcasts, by the way? Like how long are those episodes?
So if there is no interview, which the majority will have, it's about 30 to 45 minutes.
Okay. All right.
And then we just lead you through. The reason I think that's good is because, well, kind of what you said, we give you a chance to digest that. And we're not just jumping into everything. And then we're kind of walking you through what's going to happen the next week. So you're braced for it, right? Okay, though, this week they're going to talk about the actual murder. You know, I need to be braced to go into that. And this is the first long form one that I've done. But because I'm with LaDonna and it's the two of us and we're able to banter back and forth, and we do have some of those interviews. So there's a number of these cases that we're going to do where you're going to actually hear from either survivors or family of that, which intrigues that the most. And then some cases it probably costs us, or, you know, now with the world of virtuality, but I'm sure some of those will go meet people. She's at CrimeCon this week because she has another podcast called Deep Dark Secrets, which is an award-winning podcast now, where the first season they did nothing but talked about the death fetish community. Now, because it's kind of interesting you bring all this stuff up because that's where they're heading. Now they're going into the whole child aspect of that, you know, with the sexual abuse material and the dudes and people who do that. So
is it strange to you that majority of these true crime cases are men?
Yeah, to a degree. But then when you look at the crime itself, you can kind of see that. But here's the secret of that. That's why I go back and look at crimes from like centuries ago, because there were some women that was worse than men.
Broads can be crazy too. Yep.
We just don't never hear those, right? So there's whole shows about none but women that did murders. But now in this day and age, when you hear a murder or somebody shot or whatever, it's usually a guy. So
I've always kind of thought women are more meticulous and more like their murders are not. It's a weird verbiage to put on it. They're not sexy. Like they're not like they're like, yeah, I've been poisoning him for about 3.5 years. It's like, okay, were you just like, all right, whatever. And it's not like, it's not attention grabbing. It's like, that's kind of boring. But guys are like, yeah, I chopped her head off, then I ate it. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? What are you doing? Like, it's always like crazy over the top and extra, which is funny because like there's a social thing where people are always like, women are extra. It's like, nah, dudes are pretty extra too, especially when they're angry. They're really, really into the creepy, dark, depraved. Ugh. We suck. We suck.
There's a festival about women though that you're like, you watch these cases, you're like, yeah, it's gonna be boring, but you're like, man, how do they not? Like, there was this one case a while ago that I knew about of a woman that actually poisoned and killed a whole family. Now, these people are dying by the droves, right? But no one's looking at her,
right?
She's poisoning the hell out of everybody, but nobody's looking at. Well, maybe it could be her until it was too late.
I feel like I heard something about that at some point, like on one of the shows I've listened to. That strikes a chord of me remembering that.
I think it was a case. If you ever watched the show Deadly Women, it was
no
on that. But yeah, Deadly Women. I think they like 12 seasons in, and there's nothing but women that kill people. But I give you a fun one. If you listen to the show, you hear me anything that deals with race. You always hear me say that I've removed myself from the racial element of it.
How do you do that?
So I just go in looking at it as a normal person, right? Because I already know being black, people's gonna be like, man, the first thing he's gonna say is just racist. He don't have anything behind it. So I removed myself and I said, let me walk in as just a colorless person and look at his case. And just as a human being that has common sense, was this or was this not a racist case? And I always say I remove race, I do the case, and I remove it until I cannot remove it anymore. And then I'm going to tell you why that is. So the one I got dinged on the hardest, he was making all kinds of comments on my YouTube. When I know you heard recently, there was a controversy with Jason Aldean. He released a song called Try That in a Small Town. Of course, the minute he did, now I have paid no attention. I like Jason Aldean. I used to listen to stuff all the time. I follow him on Twitter, and I do know that on that particular day, he left this long tweet, and the first part of that tweet pretty much said that he had been accused of releasing a song that was about lynching. And I'm like, I'm busy. I'll get into it. And that's what I said in my pocket. I'm like, I never, picture him as a racist. So then my wife calls. And my wife, by the way, is a white woman. She calls and she says, hey, have you heard about this song? And I'm like, yeah, I heard it, but I said, let me listen to it. So as I listen to the lyrics, I'm like, okay, it could be construed one way or the other. I says, but I don't want to read too much into that. Where Jason Aldean made his mistake was that the reason there was controversy, he released a video for it that following week. Now, the week that song came out, that nobody give a damn about it. It was like top 40 chart. It was 38 and 39. The minute he released the video, everybody blew up. So I walked into it. Somebody, Dave, can you do something on this? What do you think? Do you think it's racist? And so I walk into it and I look at the case. I was like, an innuendo, it could be. And the controversy, CMT canceled this video off of CMT. It was like boycott CMT. He wasn't going to get nominated for that award for anything because they felt that it was racist. Well, the whole thing was the courthouse that he stood in front of to shoot this video. A young man had got lynched there, and there's also a race war that took place not long after that. And the balcony, they had an American flag draped over. And then when you looked at his video, there was a lot of Black Lives Matter. There was a lot of you saw a guy jump over a counter and he got shot that obviously was black. So I'm like, I'm not calling Jason a racist. I says, but an innuendo. If you listen to the words and what he's saying, and then you put that with a video, it could be. I still got Dean. I said, but don't listen to it from a black person. I said, let's read these articles that was written by white people. And I like to do that because I'm like, if I'm saying this and it's only me, maybe it's me. But if I could get 3 or 4 people that's not my skin tone to come out and say this was wrong and here is why, then we as a society maybe need to look at that. And then in true crime, what you would figure out, I say this all the time, you have to pay attention to what they didn't say more than what they did say. And I kind of dinged him because I'm like, if like we was on this show and you ever came out and said, man, Dave was on my show and he was being racist. My first thing is I'm gonna be like, no, I wasn't. So I'm gonna answer that. I'm gonna say, man, Rich, I'm sorry if you thought I was being racist. I was not. Let me explain what I meant. I'm sorry that I offended you. Jason said nothing. And then he made it worse because he went on tour and he amped it up. So some of those are fun that way. And I mean, I get deemed for it, but I'm like, hey, I'm just going to tell you the straight truth. You're going to get the truth from me if you listen to my podcast. If you don't want to hear the truth, don't come over here. I'm not afraid of being canceled.
Yeah, and that's kind of the beautiful thing about having a podcast because you can say what you want to say, and it's interesting. You know, you have a white wife, I have a black wife, so that's funny. You can do a little wife swap, whatever you're into, it's fine. We'll talk after the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's always such a weird subject because I'm not gonna lie to you. As soon as you said country, I was like racist. Like immediately just went there. I'm like, probably racist.
And I really want to break that stigma too, because you know, African Americans, I'm sure maybe you and your wife talked about this. We have problems with certain things in the industry. Country music has been one of the most racist music genres for centuries.
Yeah.
And like the Academy Awards, right? So I mean, so the night that Chris Rock went up and got slapped by Will Smith, half of the black population wasn't even watching the Academy Awards. Right. I was, because the company I work for was up for a couple of awards that night, and I wanted to see what was going on.
Right.
But because of the racist stigmas behind those, you know, and there's a couple of country artists I love, and I've done research in them. I know they don't have a racist bone in their body as far as I know, but I try to break that stigma and say, this is what we can do. Instead of honing in on that, let's do this to see if we can break that up and live as people, not just as a color.
And I feel like if we just did that as people in general, just not even just kind of take the podcast, true crime, music, whatever, take that out of the whole equation and just look at people like people, I think we'd be a lot better off as people.
Right.
But that's too much like rights. That ain't gonna happen. That makes too much sense.
I totally agree.
So I am really, really actually looking forward to, and I keep saying this, but I can't like stop it. I'm really looking forward to subbing to your stuff and like just binging the hell out of it because I have nothing to do for the next 2 days.
Well, man, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll send you a link to, because now we say we have a family of podcasts. So within our little podcast family, there's 3 of us. So there's mine, and then there's Deep Dark Secrets, and then there's Extinguished. It's going to be launching 15th of October. But before you tackle Deep Dark Secrets, though, bro, be in a good space, because those cases is real dark. And what they set out to do, now the co-host that was with LaDonna before is no longer there, so she's interviewing a new co-host today or tomorrow at CrimeCon. But they actually, because LaDonna got dinged so hard by saying that she was kink shaming, which is not what she's doing at all. They say, oh, no one actually murdered, or nobody actually murders anybody within the death fetish community. So they went and pulled all these cases that had people that was in the death fetish community and did those. And what people don't understand is our serial killers is part of that too. Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer. Matter of fact, before Ted Bundy died, he did an interview with Dr. James Dobson where he stated that if it wasn't for violent pornography, he doesn't think that he would ever be where he's at. But when you go down that trail, it turns more into from, oh, I like to watch it, to I want to experience it and what happens. So yeah, that's a real dark one for you.
I can't believe she got people coming out saying the whole kink shaming thing. Like that's beyond.
And I haven't done Gil yet. I'm do Gil on my podcast. Wait for that one. He's called The Cannibal Cop. He wrote a book and everything. But dude, it's fascinating. His wife I won't give it all away, but yeah, he was in the death fetish community, had been talking with a guy, had picked out a woman that they were going to kidnap, they were going to bake, cook, eat, even discussing temperatures and what they need to do, knew where she worked, knew her home. Wife got suspicious because the fact that he was either having an affair or doing something he shouldn't do. So she put a keylogger on the computer. And when she did that, the treasure trove opened. And he ended up going to court. And I won't tell you what happened there, but you'll be shocked. So when I do that, you have to listen.
Look at your little cliffhanger there. That was sexy. I dig it. Oh, it was good. That was good. Yeah, I mean, look, I got a little family of pods on my. I got 3 of them myself, and they're all 3 different directions. So it's a fun thing because it really does allow you to you don't get kind of pigeonholed,
Right.
I mean, with your situation, like, yeah, you need palate cleansers to keep yourself from not jumping.
And I think it's cool too, especially with Extinguished, that is me and LaDonna. Yeah, it would be true crime all the time, but then you get that break just from hearing me. You get to hear 2 different opinions on that.
Yeah.
We kind of give you a couple of directions you can go within our podcast family to listen to. So definitely different going across the board. You'll see a different demeanor from me versus on my show versus there. On my show, dude, I'm supercharged, so I get into it.
Well, I mean, look, that it is an emotional thing, so that kind of goes with the whole organic, part of it. Where like this ain't a front, man. I'm like, nope. I like it. I like it. So let's say we got some listeners here that are not too sure about the whole true crime, kind of getting their foot wet. They they've heard about stuff, they haven't really looked into it. What would be kind of maybe dipping their toe in the water episode, or maybe what could push them over the edge to start kind of paying attention to this stuff and listening to it?
I would say if there's any cases that's resembling something that's recently happened, like for instance, the school shooting, I tell, and my synopsis is going to say every parent should listen to this. What's going on in your school district? Because that is a crime, right? I will start there. Listen to some light cases like O.J. Simpson was. I know it's a murder, but it's still compared to today, it's pretty light.
Which is crazy, right? Like,
right. Back then, that was the murder of the century, right?
Right.
If you come to my podcast, I would say start out with maybe an author, and maybe the author will intrigue you because I do have a lot of true crime authors there. Listen to an extraordinary person. I do that segment because there's a lot of people that come on that part of the show that's been through things, that survived, that a lot of us is going through now, that we feel like there's no way out but to commit suicide or whatever the case is. I would say start there. Avoid anything that says they're dark, is deep. We're going to talk about cutting people's limbs off. You don't want to dive into that if you're new into the genre. But I would start with something like that.
Nice. Okay. Because I think we have kind of a bevy of different people that listen to our stuff that, it's not like a niche audience by any stretch. So,
and I do think that even for a beginner, I think that my podcast is safe because of the way that I introduce it to people. I will give you that trigger warning, but I walk through the case where you can feel it and it, but I'm not morbid to the point to where you can be thrown up when it's over.
Right.
There's substance behind it. You know what happened. So I'm kind of like the true crime podcast that if you want to listen and don't really want to go to bed and have nightmares at night, then I'm the one to come to.
But if you do, you're going to want to listen to
if you do, go and jump into deep, dark secrets and all of those really dark ones that will have you thinking, what's my neighbor doing at home?
I'm not gonna lie, that's where I'm gonna first dive into because I'm broken inside. I definitely didn't get enough hugs. It's fine. So, yeah, I mean, do you want to cover anything about you as a person? Like, is there anything else you want to kind of go over here? Because I don't want to beat the true crime thing to death, but I'm also like, that could just like I don't want to like delve into your episodes because I want people to do it yourself. Like, go get this man some listens. And oh god, I'm so excited. It's stupid. I'm irritated that I'm so excited about it.
Appreciate that.
So, like, and I told you, like, I was amped up about doing this, and like, I know it's like not super professional, but if you listen to the intro, what the fuck did you expect? We had a fart noise with a little gun Uzi thing. Anyway, I'm also 37. Anywho, is there anything else you want to kind of touch on here? Anything that you want people to know? I mean, obviously, we're gonna do the plugs and all that stuff, at the end there, but is there anything else that you kind of want to discuss with folks and put out there?
Well, one of the other things I go on people's podcasts talk about is I'm also a survivor of domestic abuse, both from my father and from an ex-spouse. And I talk about that now. I'm 50, by the way. I'm 50. I have 6 kids, 7 grandkids.
Golly, 6 kids?
Been married 21 years. Yeah, my youngest daughter just went off to college. We just sent her to California Baptist University, about 2.5 hours from here. But the one thing that you can probably agree with, and being that you're married to an African American, she'll tell you the same thing. Men, we internalize things, and we're raised in a certain way, right? No matter what color of man you are, it just gets talked about more in the African American and Mexican circles because of what parents put on us because of culture.
We have an episode that literally covers that exact thing.
Right. So you know where I'm coming from with that. Now, my mom always told me as a man it's okay to cry, but there's a lot of us out there that is going through abuse and we won't say it because we're embarrassed or because the fact that there is machismo. And
right.
I tell you, yeah, my dad beat me. He beat my mom. I've seen my mom in every situation you could think of, from being chained to beds. I've been thrown against walls.
Jesus Christ.
I was raped by an ex-wife, and people, it's impossible for a man to be raped. No, it's not.
Shut the fuck up. No, it isn't.
Right.
Stop
you get
it.
in the right situation. And just with us, we had already broke up, and she went to the guise of, I just want to talk to you. And my mom thought maybe you should go hear her out. So ends up being in her van. She shuts the doors and I'm pinned. Right. I was domestically abused by her. I was locked out in cold weather. I can remember things as far back as 4. Right. So it's like I go on these shows and say, yeah, man, I was there. I've seen the beatings. I was beat by an ex-wife because I refused to pretty much hit her back. And the thing is what people don't want to admit, women like to use that. A lot of us that has went through domestic abuse, no matter what form, we are shy about telling women that because women love to use that against a man. Oh, you're going to be like your dad, go ahead and hit me. And that's dangerous because you don't know where that man is. Maybe he is going to fall to him and just punch the hell out of you. But I think it's important to get that out. And I'm glad you did a whole episode around that. There is a song that just came out. I think it's called What It's Like to Be a Man. It's a country artist and there's a whole bunch of other people. And that's what that whole song is talking about, is that we don't expect women or anybody to understand what it's like to be a man. Nobody cares about us as long as we're providing what they think we should provide. That's it. But you don't know why we as men commit suicide. And that's what that whole song was written about, was to prevent male suicide. Because the struggles, as you know, that we has as a man, I had a Christian comedian I listen to a lot. He says, well, if we just had to be married and we was just going to be husband and wife and that was it, we'll be fine. But no, we got to wear many hats. We got to be married. We got to be partners. We got to be lovers, friends. We got to be business partners. So I think it's really important to get, I'm listening to the episode too, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna find it and send the link to you. I'll put the link in the description here for anyone that didn't get a chance to listen to it. But yeah, it is an app. It's a weird thing because I mean, you saw my co-host is black, and we talk about how it is generally it's taboo to have feelings and to show something, and this is more quoting him, but as a black male, you're looked at like a bitch if you do anything like that. Like that's exactly what it's looked like, and it causes such a cyclical problem that it's like, it's okay to feel like black, white, yellow, purple doesn't matter. Like you still, like your feelings don't have color. Like you don't have to, but it is and learning from him. It's sad, man. Like I didn't realize it was that deep seated as it is.
And the sad part about it too is, speaking of mentality of men, if we've been in that lifestyle where we've come from a violent thing like gangs or whatever,
Right.
sometimes that carries over. And I'll tell you this quick story because I'm going through this right now. And because I want to prove to young people out there that might be listening to your show that when people call you this, you're a bigger man for not resulting to violence. But I have a next door neighbor who's been a neighbor of ours for like 14 years. Apparently, my youngest son, who lives at home 13, threw some paint across our fence into his yard and it hit his concrete. A little 2x2 inch square where there was wood stainer, I guess, and then some got on his rim of his Escalade. Well, this guy's always drunk and high.
Oh, wonderful.
So I was like, I hope Jacob to do this. And he comes to my house, supercharged, and say, man, your son did this. And I was like, all right, man, you know, what's your proof? So he pulls out his camera. He goes, look at my camera. Here's your son right here. He walked out. He walked back up. He walked over here. And boom, you hear the sound. And I said, you understand that that's never going to stand up in court, right? I says, because you don't see him. You don't see what he's doing. You see him come out. You see him go in. But he disappears between a camper that we have and our backyard, and there is no camera. I said, but you know, being the good neighbor that I am, you know, we'll go ahead and take care of that. There's no reason to have a beef over anything like that. But what he expected was money in a slave at this point. Because I was like, we'll take care of it, dude, but I work a demanding job. I'm gone. My wife is gone at work. And from that day on in April, me and my wife started talking about, you know, what we needed to do. I started researching how to pull this off his concrete because it's been there a couple of days. I had ordered some chemicals. My wife ordered some chemicals. So we had this dialogue going for almost a month. Then all of a sudden he's harassing me now. So I'm getting phone calls every day at work. What's going on? And then the minute my car pulls up, he's calling. So I go to my wife and like, you know how I am? We need to hurry get this done. This is going to blow up before it gets over. Long story short, I come home one day, end of April, just walked in my door. And I had said to my wife, I'm like, you know what? We've already spent a couple $100 in chemicals. I'm tired of dealing with it. Why don't we see if we can get a professional to just come over and see what he will cost to pull this up? So I'm looking at my computer screen, looking for contractors. This fool calls. Or he sends a text message, what's up? And I said, you know what? And I send this message back. I'm like, I'm really busy. My wife's busy. We've thrown a lot of money at this. I'm just going to have a professional come do it. I'm looking now. But then before I can, when I send that, he calls me. And all I hear then is, I'm about to get real heated. And I said to him, I said, you can get heated. I said, but if you want to talk to me like a man, that's fine. Now, in a gangster field, my violent mentality, what did he just hear me say? He just heard me say, I'm calling you out. Oh, you want to call me out? So he runs outside. I go outside. And he's all up in my face. What you going to do? What you going to do? The most disturbing thing to me as a dad, and I'm not sure if you have any kids or not.
Yeah.
Okay. So
18 to 14.
All right, so this will disturb you too, is why are you going to come out to fight me? You have two sons, toddlers. One son has crawled behind me up underneath the ledge of a trailer hitch that could dislodge at any time. You don't care. You still looking dead at me with your fist up. Your wife now comes out and brings the other kid while she's antagonizing this situation. And I'm like, dude, look, I said, I'm not here to fight you. Yeah, you don't got no balls. You don't want to fight. I said, I'm not here to fight you. I said, I have more stuff to lose by fighting you than not. I said, that's not what I'm here for. I said, man, 10, 15 years ago, I might have got busy with you. I'm 50 now, dude. I don't do that. Right. So he jumps back like he wants to hit me. So I'll pull my camera out, my phone, and I hit the record. You hear his wife go, oh my God, he's recording. So then you see him drop his hands. Then he picked up his son. Oh man, you punk. No, man, we gonna go. And his wife, I'm gonna call the police. What'd you call the police for? So now she's behind the fence and I'm listening to this police call. Somebody's out here trying to beat up my husband, is what she said. And I said to him, I said, see, your wife is lying because she's telling the cops, I'm out here trying to beat you. All he heard from that was beat. Don't nobody whip my ass, he says. So then he started antagonizing me every day. You a pussy. You ain't got no balls. You don't want to fight. And I said, let me tell you that. I looked at my son who was standing there. I said, you are a bigger man. So the man thinks with his mind, not with his hands. And what this guy didn't know is I have enough skill to clean his clock. I'm a first degree black belt in Taekwondo. I'm not a punk.
Ooh, okay.
But when it comes out, I'm like, what do I want my son to see?
Right.
Especially with him going to school, dealing with what he's going with, you know.
Right. Yeah. Great point.
Right. My son's gonna be like, well, you know what, Dad, you had this problem with him, you teed off and you whipped his butt. So I did the same thing. No, so now this is laughable. So then every day I said, if you don't quit harassing me, I said, let me just tell you this. I said, I fought every day not to call DCFS on you. They've taken kids away from less than what you're doing. I know that you smoke weed in your house. I know you drink alcohol excessively. Messing with me, somebody who's a true crime podcaster who knows investigators and all this, you walk up the wrong tree, dude. Don't mess with me. Well, every day we come home, he wants to stare us down. Restraining orders, by the way, let you guys know, is a joke because the cops like, go request a restraining order. So I went that route. I never served it because the way that the judge disregarded, oh, they're just neighbors. We're not going to make him stay so many feet away from you. I'm like, if I serve this, that's just going to antagonize the situation. So then he sends me suit papers. So he wants to civilly sue me in court for $10,000.
Oh.
And I'm like, that's laughable. And then he falsified information because on the suit paper, he put, this is, why are you suing this individual? He goes, the defendant vandalized my property and refuses to pay for it. And I'm like, first of all, I wasn't the one who did it. My 13-year-old son is the alleged perpetrator. Second, I have all this proof that I'm not going to submit to the court that you're being violent and that I do have text messages that prove that we were working on getting it fixed. But because my son and my daughter and my wife was afraid of you and you were violent, I refused to fix it. You're damn right that I did. And I told the cop, I said, I'm not fixing anything now. I said, the moment he jumped violent at me,
right,
I'm done. And now nothing gets solved. Well, I've been looking at this since April. And he wanted me to use shops that he wanted because he has a bunch of homeboys that he wanted to loot their pockets. I said, dude, this is my legal right to get whatever quote that I want as long as I'm paying for it. Well, now it makes it worse for him because now, and I want everybody to listen, if you're going to sue somebody who's willing to fix some stuff, listen to how this turns now. There was no real proof and no evidence. So now I'm going to walk in dumb. Yeah, Your Honor, my son allegedly did this. The video you saw didn't show anything. As a good neighbor, I was just going to take care of it, which is not really a lie.
Right.
It is the truth. I says, but he has no real proof that my son even did this. All we know, he did it. And I said, so now you screw yourself because now the judge wants to see evidence.
Right.
Now you may walk out with zero.
Right. That is like that is legitimately like an ongoing saga. That's crazy.
If you want to hear the whole thing, that episode is actually up.
Oh, has it already been resolved?
It has not been resolved yet. So
okay,
I did that. My wife's like, you gonna do an episode because she was afraid I'm gonna disappear one day. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it as a cautionary tale for people, and then I will come back. I haven't said anything yet, but after we go to court October 31st, then I'm gonna come back with, you remember that neighbor? Let me tell you what happened when he tried to civilly sue me.
How old is this cat anyway? Like how old is this dude?
He looks about 37-ish, 38-ish, which is
okay.
sad.
So he's still kind of like a bit of a young pup, a little bit,
right?
Full of piss and vinegar, thinking that's cute.
And I don't mean this wrong because they're all not, but he's Hispanic, so he's going into this whole Mexican machismo thing. His dad tried to fight me, and I'm like, oh, so this is where he gets it from.
Yeah.
I was in front of my house one day, and then they all just staring me down, and I finally said, if you got something to say it. If not, stop looking at me. His dad wants to jump out the truck and get bad. I'm like, oh, so this is where this comes from.
Good God. That's makes me feel better about my neighbor that I hate because her dog barks all the damn time. Every time she leaves, it just barks for hours.
We got one of those too. He barks all night. Soon as his name is Whiskey. He's just I'm like, really? So I had to spend all this extra money I have on microphones because if I gotta have something that's gonna cut all that out.
Yeah. Good God. Well, I feel like that's a hell of a way to end it. A little cliffhanger, testimonial, a cautionary tale. Yeah. Damn, you got a crazy, that's
a true crime book of my own.
Wow, that's silly. Like just the extra that people have. It's like this is some paint. Like talk about paint. Right. Like,
and it's kind of like, like I said to my son, I said, I only give things that can aid in a solution. If
Right.
we fight, is the paint stain gonna disappear from your concrete? No.
Mhm.
Somebody's gonna get hurt or go to jail. So what's the solution to that?
Right. And now there's this big tension ball because paint.
Right.
Can't fix stupid, man. That's how this is stupid.
I totally agree.
All right, brother. Well, listen, great talk, great conversation. I appreciate you taking out the time because, like I said in the beginning, I thought your simple ass is on my side. You're on the West Coast. It's like it's now creeping up on 8 o'clock. This man started yapping to me at 6:52. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Go to sleep, Dylan. But sincerely, man, I appreciate you so much. Go ahead and get your plugs in, and as everyone always knows, I put all the information in the description notes. I upload it day of, so I'll send you the audio and the audio video link, and I'll find the other episodes that I want to send out and put that in the stuff there too. So go ahead and shoot your shot, man.
Absolutely, man. So yeah, True Crime Authors and Extraordinary People. You can find my website at True Crime Authors. I can't even make my own thing. TrueCrimeAuthors.com. You can send me an email at truecrimeandauthors@gmail.com as well. My new show, Extinguished, will be out October 15th. So stay abreast for that. We will plug that, especially on my show there. And then my other show, LaDonna show that's in my network is Deep Dark Secrets, deepdarksecrets.com. Go into that one lightly because that does deal with the Death Fetish community season 1. Season 2 should be coming out for that pretty soon. They're announcing it at CrimeCon this week. So stay tuned for that. And Rich, I appreciate you coming on, man. It's been a pleasure and an honor. And thank you.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. I know I have nothing to do with the true crime thing. I'm just a random ass podcast that talks about random things where if I could put my podcast in a box for a description, I would not be able to. So there's that. But I just thank you for taking out the time, and I'm looking forward to being haunted by the stories I'm going to listen to later on today.
Well, thank you for tuning in, man. And yeah, always let me know what you think.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Believe me, I'm not a one and done person. I'm going to be bugging you a little bit. Not like your neighbor bugs you, but kind of. All right, Dave. Well, listen, man, appreciate you. Have a good day at work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rich. I appreciate it, man.
All right.